empezar. Tenemos un compromiso con el tema de la hora. Me da mucho gusto saludarlos. Bienvenidos sean todos. Mi nombre es Leopoldo Torres y tengo un amigo, un gran amigo, que se llama James McPartland, que aparte es consultor y coach, a quien yo le pedí que por favor nos diera una plática con respecto al liderazgo y cómo lidiar con temas como el miedo y la incertidumbre cuando estamos viviendo este tipo de cosas eh, que son inciertas. Quiero agradecer al equipo de Mercado Fitness, al equipo de James McPartland para poder acompañarnos y poder organizar este foro, esta reunión. Eh, y con respecto a Mac, eh, puedo decirles que es una persona, un ser humano espectacular, una persona que yo admiro personalmente y con la que trabajo de manera muy cercana. He aprendido mucho de él. Él ha estado en la industria por más de 25 años, siendo primero presidente de compañías muy grandes dentro de la industria del fitness, pero también siendo asesor y consultor de empresas como IBM, Nespresso, Kellogg's, 24 Hour Fitness, Free Motion Fitness. Fue a través de Free Motion que yo lo conocí y empecé a entender algunas cosas que a mí personalmente me han servido y ayudado mucho para entenderme primero yo y para aprender a ser más productivo, a tener un entorno mucho más productivo, tener mejores relaciones, relaciones mucho más sinceras y profundas que lo que yo podía tener. Y bueno, él me ha tocado en el sentido de, Mac habla de los gifts, que son como dones o talentos o regalos que tenemos que compartir y tenemos que, no podemos quedárnoslos, sino que siempre tenemos que darlos. Entonces, he aprendido a través de el poder convivir con Mac que hay cosas tan importantes como el hecho de estar presente, y eso a mí me costaba mucho trabajo. Estar presente significa eh, dedicarte a una sola cosa, enfocarte y en específico a las personas. A veces yo he manejado equipos de 100 personas y la información te está llegando por distintos lados y es difícil estar presente. Entonces, es casi un arte el poder centrarte en la persona, el poder centrarte en la información, en lo que te está dando. Eso es invaluable y es muy, muy importante. Entonces, bueno, quiero que sepan que es un esfuerzo grande el traer a Mac, más porque este es algo que él quiso hacer por ayudar, y es parte de esos dones que él tiene y de esas ganas que él tiene de ayudar y de buscar que la gente sea feliz. Al final, todos tendríamos que estar buscando la felicidad, y eso tiene que ver un poco también con el tema de la felicidad. Y bueno, pues espero que les sirva mucho. Gracias por acompañarnos. And Mac, the audience is all yours. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You know, Leopoldo, I could listen to you speak about me all day. Thank you for the opportunity, my friend. You're kind enough to mention that this conversation would be in English. I'm very grateful that those of you who are going through a translation have given me the opportunity to share. So I have great respect for that. And I also have great respect for something you're giving to me, and that's something I can never return to you, and that's time. And I think maybe we all know time goes fast, and in a perhaps unusual way, time seems to be going slow as we work through what's going on around the world. And maybe we're all facing for the first time a common enemy. And what I'd like to share is a little bit of my story, the work that we do, why is it the work that we do, and why I'm more than grateful to be part of today. I believe Leo gave a background. I'm sure he made me sound very special. At least I hope he did. And yet I will tell you that what perhaps allows me to speak is more from what went wrong in my life as opposed to what went right. And maybe in the newspaper stories, we love to read about people who have accomplished things. And my experience has been, and I'm sure it's very similar to many in this room today, the Zoom room today. Perhaps it is the mistakes or the setbacks or the difficulties that serve to teach us the most. Certainly that's been my experience. When I think of the word impact in this difficult moment, I think there's a lot of fear. And as Leo was speaking about, what I'm very fortunate to do, having a background in manufacturing, and as I think he spoke about fitness, and having been experienced in a sales position or a president position or a CEO position, maybe the best position I've learned to play or practice is one of a student, one to learn. And one of the reasons I'm so happy to accept the invitation to speak today is Leopoldo does for me something pretty special, and he has a what I would call a willingness to want to, meaning a desire to learn. And I have been with Leopoldo when he's had to slow down, as many of us have, maybe to learn something. And in my life in the past, it was like a very fast race boat. I was always trying to go faster and faster and faster and faster. And like a very powerful boat, it certainly go fast, but what I perhaps was afraid of was to stop the boat and go deep and see what was underneath. And so my learning has been to go deep and understand who I was in a relationship first with myself and with other people, and to be a student and to learn from what life put in front of me to teach me a few lessons. And I'm sure there's some great lessons that have been learned in your journeys, and I have great respect for the time that you're giving. Part of my work is what is called executive coaching. It is really speaking about life. And in speaking about life, it's important, as I see it, to think about in life two people. And if you think about these two people and you take good care of these two people, life can be pretty special, even when it's difficult. And those two people are what I call your current self, who you are today, and your future self. Who is it that you want to become? I think many people all over the world, particularly people who are leaders and entrepreneurs and people who are accomplished, have a vision of even another stronger, faster, more fit individual. And I think we all have something to reach for. The challenge for most of us, the requirements to become this person, the behavior, the habit, the connections are not always convenient because we're busy. So many of us start on the journey for this person tomorrow. Tomorrow seems to be the favorite day of the week, certainly for me, to start on something new. So what I would like to focus on in this conversation is the impact this experience that we're all going through around the world can have on you personally, maybe on your family, maybe inside of your business. I believe all of us listen to information based on what's most important to us. And no matter who I speak to, I must be aware that what is important to me may not always be important to the person I'm speaking to. My responsibility is to understand that person and where they're trying to take their life, where they want their current self to be in the future. So in this conversation, I'm hopeful that you may be willing to test something with me. And that test is a question. And the question is, who do you intend or plan to be when this is behind us? Or maybe more importantly, a certain date, January 1st of next year. Certainly, we hope many things change before then, but if I'm going to work to change myself, maybe that gives me a little bit of time to be a better version of myself, because no matter what happens, I will arrive on New Year's Day in 2021, either a better person, I hope not the same person, because there's something I'm supposed to learn in this experience. And Leo, as I speak, is the audio okay? Anything you want to translate? Do you want me to keep moving?
Yes, everything is fine. Everything is fine.
Okay, I can stay?
Yes, please.
You keep me here? Okay. In our work, as I mentioned, of working with executives in businesses, we also work with professional athletes. And yesterday, I was having a discussion with a major league US baseball player who right now is not playing baseball and wants to be playing baseball. And we were talking about this moment of impact and what could we do now because we have time, because the things that we would be doing are not available to us. And he said to me that he believes he needs to make an impact. And he said he learned that when he was a little boy. And I said, where did you learn it from? He said when he was playing baseball as a young child, he had some heroes, special people who played the sport, who he admired and looked to, that he would keep pictures and quotations, words from these amazing athletes. And he gave me one yesterday I would like to share. He said the reason he believes this is a moment of impact for him is what a man named Jackie Robinson taught him. In the US, years ago, Jackie Robinson was one of the first African Americans, a man of color, to make it into the Major League Baseball League against amazing odds and much prejudice. He said what he learning about Jackie Robinson was this quote. He said, a life is not important except for the impact it has on other people. And he said, now I, at the moment, can't play baseball, but I can do something. Something Leo and I have talked about many times is the word responsibility. I have learned that if I accept complete responsibility for what happens in my life, then I have a certain level of control over the events. Now, certainly, when I am asked about responsibility, people ask me about the virus. And they say, okay, I'll be responsible, but I can't be responsible for the virus and what has happened because of the virus, because of the world challenge. And as I say, and something that I am reminded of always to practice, is I can't be responsible for that, but I can be responsible to that. And if I'm responsible to the virus, not for the virus, then there's something I can do. And if I think about making an impact and wanting to help other people, I believe people hear what they see. And if people hear what they see, they will look to leaders for the example. And the example being, if you want to help me in my business, my organization, and I'm looking at this person as a leader, and I don't have to listen to words, I just observe, they will teach me many things about what's most important. So I would like to suggest at this moment, there's a chance to have an amazing impact, first on yourself. Many of us put the focus and energy outside of ourselves for understandable reasons and obligations. Business, employees, shareholders, banks, children, spouses, many things can come ahead of us. And I think it's an opportunity to say, maybe I can be better, not work harder, but be better in this moment. So perhaps there is an impact I can have on myself and lead by example. So what I'd like to think about is these two people, your current self and your future self. And if you think about both of these people, both are you, the question I'd like to ask you to be thinking about is, who do you want to be around Christmas time? Who would that person be in the new year? And that's not that far, as fast as time goes. If I look at that person, and you may say, I want to be more fit, I want to be more present with my family, I want to go back to university to study while I work, I want to go back and spend time in my faith, my religion. There must be something that we want to get time to develop ourselves that maybe we haven't had time for. And then if I look back at where I am today, I have a chance to say, okay, what do I have to start doing today? And last on this piece, the way I'd like you to think about this, please, as we progress. In the United States, many, many years ago, the President of the United States was a man named John Kennedy. And President Kennedy made a statement to the country and to the world that the United States was going to put a person on the moon. Very bold impact statement. Before he made that statement, the people that were his leadership team, the people he trusted and relied on for guidance and counsel, encouraged him not to make the statement, not to tell the United States, not to tell the world, because we would look silly. This is a mistake. We don't want to embarrass ourselves in front of the world. And yet there was one man who came from Europe, who received an audience with the president, who gave him a way of seeing things that were different. The people that were advising the president at the time were telling him not to do it, primarily because they had never done it before. There was no experience, no frame of reference. And nobody wants to look foolish or silly. So it was a bit of fear going into that discussion. The man who came to visit the president from Europe said, Mr. President, if you look at the moon, and then let's say I'm going to use the moon and say it's current self, future self, Earth, moon. He said, Mr. President, if you look to the moon from Earth and how you get there, you won't be able to see it. He said, because in front of you are all the obstacles, and it has never been done before. What will people think? We must focus on something different. We'll make a mistake, and much confusion. He said, Mr. President, what you must do is go stand on the moon and look backwards. He said, if you're on Earth and you look at the moon, there's a lot of interference. If you go to the moon and look backwards, there's nothing. So if you go to your current self and your future self, and you stand there and look backwards, much like the man on the moon, the question is, how did I get here? And what did I do? And what did I do each day? And who did I spend time with? And what skills did I sharpen? So that when I arrive on January 1st, and I'm asked, how did you get here to this person I've become? How did you land on your own moon? I could look backwards and say, these are the things that I did. So I want to strongly encourage this opportunity to be stronger ourselves, whether that's our health, a skill to learn, a relationship to build, change, develop, or new. I think there's a chance to do something that gives us a more powerful journey to the moon. Good so far, Leo?
Yes, Mac, everything is fine.
Okay, my friend.
Thank you.
So let me suggest this as the next discussion here. In the beginning of this year, all of us, I believe, on this conversation had goals, objectives, targets, and results to focus on. And I think it might be very reasonable to say all of that has changed. So what I'd like to encourage is new targets. It's an impact generated by thinking, okay, how will I keep score now? And yes, have a complete understanding of how I must structure my business. If my business has shrunk, if my business has stopped, if I have employees to change, enormously difficult. And those will take a lot of time. And yet there's also time or focus on what is the new target I can set so that I can have a victory or some wins in this very difficult moment. So the first question is, coming back to the moon, is who do I need to be? Right? So if I ask myself, who do I need to be? I go out into that moment in the future and I have clarity of who that person I want to become and the habits that I need to begin to practice today. If I look at my life today, and I can look backwards, that today I am the result of all of the habits and behaviors and discussions, the actions and the thoughts I have had up until today. And because most of those thoughts neurologically become memorized, there's a pretty good chance, if I'm not deliberate and focused, I will just become a stronger version of the same person and maybe get similar results. So one is, who is it you want to be? Second, I would like you to think about what is called context. And by context, I mean Do I look at this moment in time as a loss? Each in my discussions and what I see on the news and what I listen to? And can I spend some time looking at what it is I have to gain? If I look through the lens of loss, which is what most of us are afraid of, losing something, and many of us perhaps have lost something, then I must find a more empowering way to see a gain, so that helps me drive new actions and behaviors. So a question is, what is like the glasses? Am I looking at this as the worst it can be? Or am I looking at it is going to be difficult, but maybe there's a chance to become stronger or have a greater impact from it? And last, before we go deeper into impact, to keep it simple for me, I think there are 3 things that we can train in our lives to be better each day and for the future. One is our craft, our position, the work that we do. If I think about the work I do, I know there are ways for me to improve: listening, speaking, content, relationships, presentations, sales, many things to improve. And the 2 other points are craft. There's my body. Many of us could probably say my body could use some more love, of me taking care of me, nutrition and exercise and sleep and meditation. All of these things are not new, but they come back to mind. They are reminders that I have to make some time for me. So if I have my craft, which is my work, my body, the 3rd is my mind. What do I allow in to my mind? If every day I have 50 or 60,000 thoughts, that's 2,500 thoughts an hour. That's 43 thoughts a minute. And I am distracted because of my cell phone, a meeting I'm to have, social media, the news, an interruption. I am distracted all the time. So to be focused, to be present, to make an impact is very difficult because our mind is often very distracted. So I must think about, what do I allow in? What am I looking at on the news? What conversations am I participating in? How am I speaking to myself? And how do I look at this time as a way to get stronger? I have suggested to many people that I have the chance to work with that it's important to take the time to look at the material that I consume. And so very recently, I think I've shared with Leo, there is a few books that have become very important to me. Leo, can you still see the slides on here? And of those many books that are important, I'm rereading the story of a man named Nelson Mandela. And many of you know the story of the man in South Africa. Many years ago, I visited his prison. And I remember at his prison, the guards toured us around the prison on the small island outside of South Africa. The tour guides were the former guards of the inmates, Mandela being one. And they spoke of the horrible treatment of Mandela and other inmates, and of the times they made these men dig their own graves, have them lay in the grave and pretend they were going to bury them alive, or actually bury them alive. And his story, and like many stories that I look to and say, If he goes on to change and become the president of his country, what must he have overcome? What did he think about? Who did he spend time with? And I think there's a lot for us to learn of other points in time in history when people have overcome enormous odds to change their story, to do something different, to get a different outcome. Very difficult, but I think that opportunity is here in front of us. So in looking at moments of impact, and I think of that word impact, I like to break things down to try to continue to remind myself of how I am operating in the world. One of the first things I do is think about, what is my intention? If I am present to it, I recognize that now many of us have lost some clarity or certainty of what was going to happen. I believe all of us need or have wanted in this life we lead is some level of predictability and certainty. Much of that is gone. And because that is gone, we may look outside to information and to news for an answer, for direction. And maybe that information is not helping us. So I believe it's important to stay aware and then move into something that I can handle or control. And I think it's important to be intentional about what I want from each day. To start the script, to think about what I want to accomplish, to think about the help I can make for another, to think about the commitment I've made to myself, and to hold myself accountable to being better, to doing it with intention, even though I know around me are very difficult circumstances. And it takes strength. Leo, we still good?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm checking. My screen went to sleep. Okay, thank you for that. So if it's lack of clarity to intention, it goes from what I find in many people I've spoken to, a level of being discouraged. Going from being discouraged to movement, energy, shifting. Inspire is the movement of energy. And I ask people when they are discouraged, what are you thinking about? Are you thinking about loss? Or are you thinking about what's possible? Most of us, by the way the brain is designed, are thinking around fears of what could happen, of what if, of the dangers, the damage, my family, my business, my health. It's a very frightening time. One of the ways to lower that stress is moving. Action tends to crush anxiety. So I'm a big believer is moving forward. Don't get things perfect, just get them going. So that's second point being momentum. Third is, we've talked about this, is the fear aspect of it. Each of us have an opportunity to trust ourselves. And if we consider that our body has energy, our body has a motor, we have an ability to do amazing things. There are times in our lives when we take our power and we put it in someone else's hands, expecting someone to do something that will influence our lives. In this period we're going through, many people I have spoken to did not realize that they have taken their power and given it away, that I'm helpless, there's nothing I can do, or there's little I can do, or this is a horrible situation. And while yes, it's a horrible situation, no matter what circumstances, there's always something I can do. So I have to be aware of if I've given my power away to the media, to somebody to tell me what the future will be, or if I'm able to take that power back and say, there's something I can do about this. I can always take action. It's like being in a casino. If you've ever been in a casino with a lot of chips, action and energy, there's always something that can be done, always. And I think this group that Leo's explained and is on this conversation and this call has probably taken some bold actions in your lives and have great experience in bold action. Maybe not with a virus, but with bold action. Third piece that I see often in the people that call us is uncertainty, indecision. What do I do? And what I often say to people is, what do you think you should do? And if people slow down long enough and they talk about the situation and what they believe is best to be done and have someone to speak with, most people know what to do. Sometimes we don't trust ourselves and we look to other sources to tell us. I believe it's important to get things going, not to get things perfect. Mistakes will happen. Things will not go the way we want them to go. There's a lot to be said for movement. And much like I'm sure is in your business, what is also very helpful is if I don't feel I can do something to affect my life, I know I can do something to help somebody else. And sometimes that action on working to help somebody improve their own life makes a big difference in my own life. Next piece is survival. Physiologically, neurologically, the average person spends about 70 to 75% of each day in survival thinking. I'm sure in your business, many decisions to make, changes to be made, competition, employees, maybe there's some things with bankers or lawyers, and it's keeping things moving. It's like being in a swimming pool. Staying afloat is survival, which leaves very little energy for creativity. Many of you are obviously very creative by the businesses that you're involved in or what you've developed. That skill set is something that I, like a muscle, will benefit from practice at this stage to realize, am I now thinking survival, which is understandable, but after I spend my time in survival, then I need to put some energy into creativity. Because what has got me here, that skill set can move me forward to that person I want to be January 1st, if not sooner. And then finally, there's a lot of difficulty of being alone. Yes, maybe we'll be fortunate enough to be quarantined with family, but the people we have spent the most time with in our lives and our businesses, it's not the same. We need human connection and we need human touch. And what I'm very grateful to Leopoldo for doing here is to pull this together, is to try to bring some additional ideas to spark a conversation, maybe that have somebody take a step that maybe would not have been taken had not this conversation happened. And so I believe we're all together, and the reason I'm happy to be here is I want to help, even if it's in English. So this is about impact, right? I'd like to ask you to think about this. One of the things we've done recently, and it's a simple yet ultimately very difficult exercise. Suppose you accept that this is a chance to make a big impact. And yes, there will be difficult moments to work through, but there is always difficult moments to work through if we are striving to do something significant. And yes, they're new, but I think there's always a way. History says there's always a way. So perhaps if you agree this is a moment of impact and that you can become somebody even more powerful, and I don't mean do more, I mean be more. Can I be more present? Can I be more focused? Can I spend time in new ways on my health and perhaps with my important relationships? Not all the time, but time that makes a difference. And if I'm thinking about that, as people have been asking me for some ideas, I'd like to turn it back to you for a moment and see if you have strength to do an. What we're having some people do, and we've made it a fun contest. It's the Be Better challenge. Now, the Be Better challenge is simple, maybe not easy, but let me offer it. We ask people to create 10 ideas a day and do that for 10 days in a row. What's very interesting about this, the first day, many ideas. Second day, not so many. And then it begins to become a bit more difficult. What often happens is people judge their idea. This is not a good idea, or this is a crazy idea, and they stop. No idea at first is a perfect idea. An idea is like a product that needs to be nurtured and groomed and developed into the marketplace. An idea is like a child that needs to be nurtured and loved and taught and corrected and modified as they go out into the world. So it's important not to judge. So we've asked people to take the challenge, 10 ideas for 10 days, which is 100 ideas. Take from those 100 ideas the top 5. When you take those top 5, look at the first step for each 5. For example, I have this idea that I will be better by working on my health. Perfect. What is the first step? And I'll put it in my calendar. So I would have 5 ideas, 5 steps in my calendar. And then as I go through what I learn and continue to put into the calendar, I come back to my list and I start again. In that list that already exists of 95 more ideas, or I learn some new ideas by talking about this or taking action. So what we have found is people have said to us, if I didn't judge my idea, and if I had the courage to do it, I'm surprised at what I learned, what I had the courage to do, what I accomplished, and how I realized maybe I have not trusted myself in the way that perhaps I should. Finally, we take these ideas with people, and we have a list of these ideas. And this is something that Leo can do with you. You can do with family and friends. So if I have 100 ideas, and I take the top 5, and I put them into a schedule, and I share what's happening. If I have the strength and the courage, I invite people who I know to join me. And I say, listen, this is what I'm testing to do to make an impact so that by the end of the year, I'm a more powerful human being, I'm more present, I'm more loving, I've worked through the virus, I've gotten stronger. Yes, I've had difficulties, but I don't want to look back and say, I wish I would have taken an opportunity to do something. I decided to do something. And when I share that with somebody, here is my list. Here is what I'm pursuing. Here's what I've scheduled. What do you think? What I think most of us know and experience is it's always much more fun to tell somebody else what to do than to take our own advice. But the point there is it's what we call crowdsource. If I get 5 people together and I tell them about my ideas and what I'm doing, and I ask those 5 people to give me 5 ideas about my goal, I will have my list, and then I will have 25 new ideas. And it's amazing what can come out of a simple process that just takes mental discipline and non-judgmental thinking to test things. This is a great moment to test things, right? To trust ourselves. Because ultimately that's what I believe makes an impact. So I'll leave you with a shot to the moon. So if you think about where you are and where you want to go, and who that person is going to be at Christmas time, if not before, if you're standing in those shoes in the future and you look backwards, maybe you'll ask yourself, what were the 3 habits that I created that took me from here to here? What were those behaviors? Or what were the relationships I built? The habits that made a big difference that you know, like with exercise, that stack up. And what was it that was interfering that I had to move out of the way? What did I have to let go of? And how did I stay creative, right, to make an impact with other people? So if there's an interest in that, there's the 10 idea campaign for 100 ideas and just testing things before discarding them. I think you will find, as many people who we have presented this to have found, much like the poker chips, there's always a supply. There's always an action. There's always an idea. There's always an impact, and always a group of people that want to help if we are focused on what there is to learn and gain and fight hard not to be too often in fear. And then last I leave is, I believe, and I'm sure it's very true with the folks on this conversation, that I want to do like Jackie Robinson suggested to the baseball man and said, life is not important except for the impact it has on others. I may never know, and probably will never know, if in the work I do, one person does something different because of something they heard, something they decided to do for themselves, and it made a difference, and they paid it forward. If one person on this conversation does something different because of this, it's not important that I know, it's important that you know. I think it's important you know that I really believe in this work we do, because much like the baseball player, I believe I'm supposed to share with words something that will make a difference for somebody else. I may never know if it does, but I can't control that. That would be giving away my power. I can hold my power with good intention, to take an action, to try to find a way to see something different that makes a difference for your life. If that happens with one person, then today has been an enormous victory, but I certainly have the goal of many more. And Leo has given me the gift of time, of trust, of belief, and I'm sure he told you that he has spent time with me, and maybe he's said that he's learning something. Well, the best relationships are when both people learn, when both people are a student and a teacher, and they change roles. Leopoldo reminds me of integrity, of family, of heart, of finding a way. And my responsibility to him is to make sure that he slows down that boat sometimes enough to go deeper on him, because he's a man with many gifts and many talents. And when he asked me to come spend time, it was absolutely because of his willingness to be somebody different. So I'm curious, Leopoldo, when you're standing on the moon a few months from now in your spacesuit, what you look like and who you become. So thank you for the chance to work to make an impact.
Thank you very much, Mark.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And it certainly make a change in me and my approach to life. And it's something that I want to share. So from the deepest of my heart, thank you very much. And it's changing and it's helping, and I'm the proof of that. So thank you very much.
And if you have anybody who has a question that you wanted to translate, I'll take it, or I'll leave you to it, my friend. It's up to you.
Si alguien tiene alguna pregunta, con mucho gusto podemos verla. Y yo quiero terminar con una pequeña frase que creo que va muy bien para como terminar con la presentación de Mac, y es que a veces tenemos que ver la vida a través de los ojos de un turista y no de las personas que no ven más que lo que siempre están acostumbradas a ver. Entonces, Creo que ahí hay una gran diferencia entre entender esta situación como una oportunidad. Yo ciertamente ha sido complicado en muchas cosas, pero en otras cosas ha sido una fortuna. Estoy buscando alternativas y creo que el hecho de pasar tiempo con personas como Mac que te ayudan a pensar y a empezar a desarrollar otra idea de cómo funciona el mundo, eh, cómo puedes ayudar, cómo puedes compartir, cómo puedes eh, tratar de ser una mejor persona, a mí me ha ayudado mucho y bueno, pues espero que esto también les haya ayudado y aportado en algo a ustedes. Deseo que estén bien, que su familia esté bien. Agradezco enormemente a Mac, a su equipo, a Mercado Fitness por la oportunidad y eh, muchas gracias y Mac, thank you very much. Guille and team are thanking everyone in your team and yourself for this opportunity and thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Leo, you're very welcome, my friend. Stay strong and make an impact.
Yes, sir. I will.
See you soon, my friend. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Adiós. Gracias a todos. Mauri.
Sí, decime.
Perfecto, amigo. Muchísimas gracias.
No, gracias a vos, Che, gracias por todo.
Gracias a todos. Gracias, gracias, Guille y equipo. Muchas gracias. Abrazo muy fuerte a todos. Gracias.
Hasta luego, Leopoldo, que andes muy bien, Che. Suerte.
Gracias. Nos vemos mañana. Mañana nos vemos, Guille.